other than me sweating. This is worship attendance, and so just because you can't read it, the blue line in this graph is this year, 2022. That's the blue line. And the orange line in this graph is January through March, the same period of 2020. And so you can kind of see our church was running close to back around 6. And then we started hearing the word about the pandemic. And then all of a sudden the graph just stopped. And so that's there's no worship attendance recorded except online for almost a year. But this is us coming back, and if somebody's wondering how are we doing versus the pandemic, when we talk about worship, we're back to in pretty good shape.
That number is in your blue line.
That's Easter.
How many? What on the other side?
Oh, this is the 600 line.
Okay.
And this is the 700 line. So we had 700, just a little over 700 for Easter. It will be back down just a little bit. But the trend of the line is more what I'm interested in. And it just kind of falls off the cliff. And so, pardon? The dip in the blue line is the All Together Sunday. So I had some groups that went ahead and met. They met at different times, and that's the All Together Sunday. We didn't take much worship attendance. I think we counted one of the worship attendance, and so that's.
The last COVID spike too?
Pardon?
Is that the last COVID spike?
It was close.
The last COVID spike. So this is the first Sunday in January, and so that I think is here. Is this flat right here when we were talking about it? Is where that's at?
Yeah, because COVID came back right around the beginning of the year.
Yeah, the Delta variant was announced about the beginning of the year.
So this is Sunday school attendance, all ages, and so I got the lines reversed in this one. So in this one, the blue line is 2020. Okay, so I'll fix that in future graphs, but you can kind of see where things kind of fell off and basically almost hit zero, and then you can see where we started coming back with some online stuff and began to revamp our reporting system and those kinds of things to get that number to get better. And then you can kind of see again where this is that All Together Sunday, and then we're coming back. We're not quite back where we were. I was just at a discipleship conference, and nationwide churches have lost in a range from are back to 80% to 60%. And now the interesting thing about that number is the larger the church, the fewer people are back. The group that is struggling the most in getting people back are mega churches. And some of those are half the size of what they were. And so what did you say, Linda?
That's for good reason. That's how many people?
Yeah.
The more people, the more exposure.
More people, more exposure. The other thing is they do not tend to have one thing that a small church does. Anybody want to guess what that is? Chris, you have to be quiet today. You're sworn to secrecy in this meeting. Small group Bible study.
They don't have a classroom.
So the churches that are coming back, it really isn't just classrooms, but the churches that are coming back are churches that are strong in small group. And so one of the things, at the height of our small groups, we had as many small groups as Celebration did.
Wow.
Gee whiz.
And so you start thinking about how people attend church. This style of church that we're a part of is very effective. And so that's just some interesting things. So if anybody asks you, how are we doing? We're at the kind of top of the class, so to speak. And as far as churches in general, our worship attendance is come back very strong. I don't have any qualms in saying that. And our Bible study attendance, it continues to strengthen as well. And just walking around, we're back to there's some classes we're going to need to start beginning to think and pray about starting new units, because literally every chair in the room is full. And so, and that's I'd much rather have that problem than I'm just wandering around the building, talking to myself, which I do that anyway. We know that. And so, just some other things, as we begin to kind of think about moving forward and those kinds of things. We now have some additional space, and we're talking about, just touched on starting new units. We have kind of rearranged space in the building. Tracy now has all preschool through 5th grade down on the first floor. That makes it easier for her to manage that space. 6th grade is still upstairs. But that opened up several good rooms. Obviously, they need to be repainted. I budgeted for some chair replacement. But we're back to the point, even in the schedule that we have now, we have the opportunity to start some classes and not have to move people or share spaces still. So that opportunity is there. So if you're just doing an inventory, which is what I do, there is one room on the 2nd floor of the A building that it has an interesting problem. Are you okay?
I'm fine.
I charge extra for the Heimlich.
For the what?
The Heimlich. I just want to make sure you're okay. And you're not going to offend me if you step out or
Well,
and come right back, okay? Not going to.
will do that.
I want you to take care of yourself, all right?
I'm on the tail end of COVID.
I understand.
And the will not go away, but I'm not contagious.
All righty. But there's one, but it's right across from the organ, Carol, and the door rattles. And so it's kind of, if hearing is an issue, it's not the room for you. And then we have right now, 4 easy rooms on the 2nd floor of the E building. A couple of them are large, very spacious rooms. And so we'll be working to kind of help some classes maybe, or some new groups begin to see a vision for that. We are currently working on a new class for newly and nearly married young adults. We're reaching some of those folks. And so that's an ongoing ongoing work in our church at this point. And so I wished I had a down page. There it is. So there's about 3 or 4 things I want to touch on. And the first one is display technology woes and triumphs. Okay? So going into COVID, and then everything that happened during COVID. And so I want to try to explain the cascade of events that have kind of got us into the woe and triumph mode here in our church. And so we have several devices that have been disconnected or have literally gone AWOL. I'm missing about 3 Apple TVs, 2 or 3 Chromecasts. Well, the building set pretty much unused for a long time. Some of those I'm finding it wasn't working, and so somebody unplugged it and threw it in a drawer. So I'm in the process of finding and getting stuff back into good shape. The other thing that happened is during COVID, and everything went online, and people had a lot of time on their hands in companies, and they were working on stuff. We have been through a massive set of updating, just continual. We were joking about it earlier, but literally, I updated 5 cameras this morning between worship services because the firmware was jumping. And so, if you watch the first service, you'll see the balcony camera literally, it looks like it's ingested Mexican jumping beans. So we have disconnected items, and we have items that are missing. And so we'll be working to get those back, and we'll talk why that's going to be important in a minute. We have had Apple TV connection issues. Jerry will attest to that. We finally have figured out probably what that is, and we hope that we have licked it finally. We use a commercial-grade wireless system, and we have some very smart people that help me manage that system. There was one checkbox that was blocking Apple TV signal. So if you were in a room that had a newer Apple TV, it would connect through the Apple Bluetooth, and it would work. The next person would walk in, if they had an older device that didn't have that technology, it might work, it might not work, depending on when it had been turned off or turned off. And if the power had gone off, the Apple TV had no way to figure out what network it was on, because this one checkbox would not allow it to ask, where do you belong? So we think we've got all that ironed out and have found all of the checkboxes and those sort of things. Google Chromecast have gone through a big update, and they're starting to phase out some of the generation of Chromecast we have. So we're just in the process of replacing those. They are much cheaper to replace, by the way. But so that's kind of where we're at. So the next slide is I need your help. And if you want to go back and do this later, you can. This is a QR code to a little survey. Does mine work? Is it missing? I need it in my room. It's not the technology that I use. And so I'm trying to get all that back to where we go. And so if you want to fill this out later, it'll be in the email as well. But it's just kind of helped me know where I need to put that energy first. So if it's an empty room, I'm going to let it ride. But if, like Jerry Bradley uses it every single week. And so, we have 2 or 3 classes that the display technology has become important. So this just kind of a way to kind of help me prioritize where I need to put my effort and make sure that I've got that all working, it's working correctly. And if it's not, I want to know, because we continue to kind of fix it. And if did it work?
No, I said I can't hold it still enough.
Oh, okay. It'll be in the email type thing, so don't worry about it. I put it there more for the people who are going to watch the video later type thing. And I had a really nice where it faded in. It looked cool. Okay, just trust me. If you're just like, give me brownie points, this slide was awesome. Okay, it did a lot of really nice things. But do the survey for me. It just kind of helps me get things online. We've moved some classes around, and some things didn't move with them, that kind of thing. And so just kind of help me kind of get us caught back up, okay? Any questions about that? The system works really, really well. Like I looked the week before Easter, I looked, and we had, during Bible study, we had 300, we'll just call it 300 and almost 400 people in the building. And during Bible study, we had 400 people in the building, and we had, at one point, we had right at 500 devices online. Wow. So some of those preschool babies are carrying 2 and 3 things, okay? And so, but technology and church has become very much a part. We were talking, somebody was asking me, how do we, at the women's thing, was a guest, was asking about our church's technology and stuff, and I said, we're playing at the big church level here, because we literally can run our worship service in about 10 online Bible studies and all the devices, and nobody will know it. Yeah, Chris?
I just want to attest to the work that you guys have done on that. I mean, it shows. In the beginning, the Wi-Fi was horrible, and it was so bad. Like, I seriously would turn off my Wi-Fi and just use 3G because it was better. You guys have done amazing work on that, so thank you very much.
Well, I wish I could take the credit, but Adam Dipple, John Palmer, Steve Winters, they're really the brains behind stuff. I know how to, like, turn it on, turn it off, do some minor things, but literally...
You're being just a tad modest.
Well, but Karen knows who to call. And so, and I was chastised. I went out of town and didn't tell those guys, and some of those guys were out of town. And every once in a while, something really strange happens here. I don't know what it is about downtown Round Rock, but the power in downtown Round Rock is flaky. And so the system that you see, these little white things that are in the ceiling right there, they're set to automatically update at like 3 in the morning, some ridiculous hour. They're all automated. It does it on its own. and 99 times out of 100, it works flawlessly. I don't even know it happens. I was out of town. Adam, who's the principal manager, assistant manager of this, was camping, which means he has no real access to anything. And the power went out in the building long enough that all of our batteries went down, and it caught its mid-update, which means it did not work the next day at all. And John was working and trying to get his, do what he does for a living. And, Karen was making phone calls and all kinds of stuff. And so there's a lot of really good people in this church that really help that process along. But the use in classrooms is kind of where I want to get back to, kind of getting some focus on some stuff. There, it came back. And so do the little survey. It just kind of helps me kind of get stuff where I need to put the most emphasis. So let's talk just real briefly about records and that kind of stuff. So check-in and double checking. Through the pandemic, especially in the first year of the pandemic, I just, to be honest, I didn't care. Knowing how many people were in a Zoom Bible study was not the primary concern. It was more, could we get people in Zoom Bible studies? All the online stuff that was going on. I had a good idea. People were telling me, people still give me good information, but that just did not seem like that was the most important thing to do. We weren't dealing with a lot of prospects. The number of prospects we were getting, they were coming in a Zoom meeting. We knew who they were. Most of them still are attached to our church. But now that we've come back, using the check-in kiosks has been very, very helpful. I still don't have my name tag on, but I know a lot of adults don't like name tags, but they really help out our congregation. That's why we went to them coming out of COVID, and why I've continued to kind of maintain that process of getting a name tag. We're not going to police. If you don't have a name tag on, no big deal. But I guarantee you that if a young adult in our church was engaged in a conversation with Joe England, and we all know Joe England probably in this room because Joe England's been around a long, long time. But if you're new to our church, if you start watching, the people that are new to our church will look for the name tag. And so it's helped our church kind of get back in the process of knowing one another, and that's been really, really good. So I know not everybody wants to wear a name tag. That's fine. My wife sticks it on her coffee cup about half of the Sundays. And so as long as she's got her coffee cup, you know who she is. If she doesn't have her coffee cup, you don't know who she is. But we're going to continue to encourage people to use the kiosks. We've got some, maybe more that we're going to install. They're not super expensive, that kind of thing. And so we're looking at where do we need to do them. But do me a favor, have someone or have a couple of people in your group that are kind of designated to double check or to check in the Zoom people. Because one of the things I learned about the Zoom people, they're not going to get out of the Zoom meeting to go check themselves in. Even though they could, they don't. And that's okay. Just have somebody just kind of like looks at the list and double checks and goes on. And that's really, really helpful. We are starting to put guests in so that they have a name tag. And I think the name tag says something like guest today, friend tomorrow, or something, or friend next week. Something corny, because I made it up. But we're starting to try to have that to where we get really good information off the jump. So if you see like Karen and Nicole, or if you have someone who has high hospitality skills and is gracious with people and can type, we would love to begin to grow that team a little bit so that they get greeted. Like this morning we had a family, and so I was talking to Richard. We're seeing a difference in the way people are coming to our church. We used to say our atrium was where we met people. People are meeting us in Google. And so if you want to know why we take pictures, and I take pictures, and I post pictures, and I tag First Baptist, is because if you go churches near me in Round Rock, First Baptist is going to be one of the, if not the top thing. It's not that people go to our website first. That's kind of what we think. That's not true. They find us on Google first. So that's why optimizing Google. Go home, go to Google, write your church a glowing review. Say something nice about me if you can't think of anything. But talk about how great our pastor is, how much you're getting out of the sermon, how friendly your class is. Because as Google looks at First Baptist, the more conversation we have about Google, we're appearing above the Methodist. Okay? And not that I don't like the Methodists, but I want to be ahead of the Methodists, okay? And so, but encourage your Sunday school class. If something great's going on at First Baptist, I really liked it, post it in Google, because that gets people to our website, that gets them to the contact card, that gets them to the group finder, which I'll touch on that in just a minute. Yeah, Chris?
So two things. First off, I just want to say another thing that has shown is the work that's been done digitally. I can tell you my generation, just with all due respect to other churches that are out there, it's very easy to see when someone just went on a website and just picked a lot of random pictures from other churches and threw them on their website to look real. It's really nice to see that we're using stuff that's ours, number one. And then number two, my question was, as far as working with Shelby Next within the class, is there any way that we can kind of expedite the process of being able to get someone else that's not necessarily an admin of the class to be able to take attendance or edit things?
You just have to tell us who that is, and then we put them in your leadership, and I'm going to touch on that. They need to know what's going to happen when they do that. But we have all of our adult Shelby classes are set up that if you have somebody that says, hey, I'm going to I want to be the attendance person. We just add them to your leadership team, and they automatically have all the rights that you have. So they can deal with prospects. They will get the emails, all that kind of stuff.
Email you about that?
Yeah, email me or just talk to Karen, or just say add this person, and that will take care of it. And they'll be able to do the email if you want them to do the email, that kind of stuff. But that's really all there is to it. We've tried to make it as easy as we can, and they'll see the attendance grid and all that stuff shows up. Which leads me to the next thing, interactions and reporting. Help me get the word out, and I don't know what the best way to do this is, but how many of you have received an interaction? Probably everybody in this room has at some point. It comes as an email, and it'll say, you've been assigned. There's one that says, Larry has assigned you a prospect. And it gives you their information, and then it'll say report. If you, we're going to take an adventure here. We're going to see if I can open up Shelby real quick and show you what I'm talking about. But in the interaction system, two things happen. And so the interactions look like this. Let me show you outstanding. These are all of the outstanding. There's about 3,000 of them. So, but you can see here where a guest came in, guest contact card was filled out. It was assigned to our pastor. Here's the name of the individual. This is a generic message that it generates, and it was assigned on. As soon as he checks the box, he completed it, then it will move it to that he's done that. And so the other thing that you can also do with this is you can log contacts. So every time during the pandemic, I called the senior adult, I made a telephone hospital visit, I logged it. So if you were also, that person was in your class and you were looking at their history, you would see where I had contacted them. And so it's a good place to keep all that information. But what it does is it sends out, when we enter somebody as a prospect, it sends everybody on your leadership team. So this is why, Chris, it's important that if they are going to do attendance, that they know they will probably get this email as well. And then this is what's really interesting. If you go to the group finder, okay, and I don't have any control over this, but if you go to the group finder, as the couple that contacted me today did, and said, hey, I'm interested in First Baptist. Gremlins today. I'm interested in First Baptist. Tell me about your group. I want to join your group. Then it emails that team of people an email that says, hey, Larry Stair, 3816 Royal Trine Drive, phone number is interested in your class. And then it says this line at the bottom, it says, if you don't wish to contact this person, please let someone know. Okay? Now that is, I have no control over that line. If it did, I say, if you don't want this person, it sounds like you really don't want them. That's really not what it's trying to say. It's basically saying to you as the leader, if you're not going to contact this person, let somebody know so they will. And so that has thrown some people when it comes through because that bypasses me and goes straight to you. Okay? And so there's a couple classes that I'm the leader of. But getting people back in the habit of dealing with prospects, because here's what we're discovering with prospects. Okay? The couple this morning is a great example. They watched us online as a family for a month or so. They've been visiting in person since January. They liked what they saw. They found us on Google. They liked what they saw. They've been sitting in the back, being real low-key for 2 months. And then finally they said, and this is how I always know, if they call me Mr. Stair, I know they're not from this zip code. And then all weekend we've been having a running email dialogue about great class, where to go. And that's becoming more the norm rather than just somebody drives by our sign and goes, oh, I'm Baptist, I'll go to the Baptist church. Those days probably went away with the pandemic. And so just be aware that if you get these digital communications, whereas maybe we would wait for them to show up, we need to begin to train our people. Don't wait. Let's be hospitable. And I was at a conference, and I now have the best definition between friendly and hospitable I've ever had. Are you ready? This is probably the best thing you could take away. Write this down. Friendly is, I'm glad you're here. Hospitality is, sit with me, let me take you to lunch. Hospitality requires sacrifice. Friendly does not. We need to move from being a friendly church to being a church that is hospitable. That we are willing to make the sacrifices for you to come be a part of us. And so that's the best. I stole that straight from Sam Raynard. I mean, I'll give him credit and all that stuff, but I stole it straight away. But it's probably the best definition that I could understand. And so I think that's really, really important that we begin to help our people. So start getting used to looking for those interactions, because we're having people visit again. And that's really kind of kicked in full stream in the last month or so. I think we're finally past COVID far enough that everybody's kind of, I want to get back into a new flow. Now there's some side effects to that. We know that the average person attending church is probably in about 1 out of 4 now. It was about 2 out of 4 before the pandemic. We're seeing even faithful people are more 2 to 4, 1 to 4. And so encouraging people to be a part and staying on people who are absent. We want them to know that they are missed. And that's going to be really, really important. And so let me see if I can jump back to my presentation and then jump forward here again. Oh, where's it at? Here it is. Okay, so this is a screenshot of my family. Okay, So this is, how many of you had a baby? This is Testing Stare. He's a baby. Actually, I don't think Testing Stare has his gender identified, actually. That joke wouldn't have been funny like a year ago. But here's the icons I wanted to point out to you. If you go to your page, there is a bell in the corner. If you have been assigned an interaction, that bell will have a red number by it. So that's one of the ways you know that you've been assigned an interaction. If you're in there and you're looking for something and you see something red in the corner, that's to get your attention. This little icon that looks like a piece of paper with the edge folded over, that is the Interactions tab. It opens up the whole interaction page. And then this is, if you wanted to log an interaction, like you've contacted somebody or you've made a hospital visit or something, you can hit this chevron. This is what happens when you say, I want to log an interaction. Hit the chevron and it will open up a list. Okay? And then it will have your name in the completed by. If there's instructions, you can put instructions in there, or the more important is the summary. And you can put in a summary of, had a great visit. A lot of times you'll see, if you read some of mine, it'll say left message. Because it's important to me to know how many times I've tried to call and how many times I've had to leave a message. And don't feel bad about leaving a message, because one of the things that we've discovered coming out of the pandemic is people listen to their voicemail. They may not respond to it, but they listen to it. That's what studies are telling us. So people will listen. They may not do anything with it. So be friendly. Get your folks to be friendly. Leave messages, leave texts, and that sort of stuff. You could also assign me an interaction. So like if you get a prospect and they're not the right fit for your class, like we assign somebody just based upon a guess, which we do, and you call them and they say, well, we're really 30 years old, and you go, oh, great, let me put you in touch with a friend. They're going to call you and talk to you about a class that maybe fits your need. Then get on here, go to the Interactions tab, assign Larry Stare, go to my page, assign me an interaction to get this person in a class and tell me what you know. And that'll be really helpful. Okay? Does that make sense? And I will tell you this, you can do this on your phone. It's a little easier on a big computer. Maybe that's just because I'm not as young as I used to be. But just the drop downs and all that stuff works better. But the big takeaway is visitors are back. We're having guests. And we need to get back on. We were doing a really, really good job before the pandemic of managing our prospect file. People were going in, they were getting contacted, and we were seeing a good number join. We need to get back to doing that. We need to be encouraging our members to get involved in that process in our classes. And so tell them, hey, I'm going to assign. You can assign people in your group an interaction, like, hey, I want you to contact these people. And there's a way to do that in mass if you want, and I'll show you that here in just a second. As a matter of fact, let me just do it like right now before I jump into this. Let's go back into Shelby just a second. So if you go to Shelby and you go to reports, and y'all should have a report. Now your report won't show everything that mine does, so when I do this, don't freak out, okay? But go over to this tab that says Individual Reports. If you click it, you will get something that looks like this. Now it'll come up, and I don't know what yours will come up. Mine comes up with everybody in the church. So like I said, don't get too worried about this. But these boxes right here are important. So you can go in and say, for the last 13 weeks, and you can actually, there is 13 weeks, last quarter, last 6 months, last year. You can give it a date range, or you can give it a relative date range. Okay? So my brain thinks in 13-week increments. If you have a couple of groups that you're part of, this is where you would pick your group. I'm just going to pick, let's see. Let's pick a good class here. Let's pick Mary's class. We'll pick Bible boot camp, and you can pick a couple of classes. And then I'm going to say people, anyone who has attended these groups or only members of these groups. So if somebody came in the check-in system, came to your class one time and identified that class at the check-in, but they're not really in your list, it's going to pick those people out as well. Okay, that's kind of what that tab means. And then I can say I want present or absent. Folks, sometimes just once in a while, go in and those people who never, ever miss your class, tell them thank you. We don't give out Sunday school pins anymore, but every once in a while, it's just nice to get a thank you that you have great attendance. You're important in our class, that kind of thing. But you can say, I'm going to just pick absences for fun, and then I'm going to say more than, and I'm going to give it a week like 9, and hit enter, and I'm going to tell it done, and apply. And now, great, no results found. And that makes me happy because that tells me that in the last 13 weeks in Mary's class, there is no one who's missed more than 9 times. Now, it doesn't do zeros. It's a quirk of Shelby. So you have to look for zeros another way. But if you go back to this, I'm just going to knock the whole group thing out here. I have to find Bible Boot Camp now. And I'll kind of show you how the report runs. So here's that same everybody in church. And so in this group that have missed more than 9, we can go through and we can look individually at their attendance for those 13 weeks. So that's what it's telling us. And if I wanted to, who's somebody I can pick on? Here's Fred Bird, who's still on our Sunday school roll. And I can click on his name, and there has to be a short in this wire. It has to be that.
Aren't open.
To come back? Anyway, if you're looking at my graph, it's just not going to stay up there, is it?
Computers.
When we get to heaven, Peter's going to give us a rock and a chisel because we got time on our hands. Come on back. But anyway, you could go click somebody's name like I clicked on theirs, and I don't even remember whose name I clicked at this point, and Fred Bears, and then you can actually go straight into his record and do that. You can also check like 5 people, and you can send them a mass contact. And so, anyway, let me get out of this, and we'll see if maybe it just doesn't like Shelby today. All right, so any questions about just the computer part of it? Because I want to spend the next, probably 15 minutes kind of talking about moving into the fall and curriculum and some stuff like that. Any questions about the technology side of it or anything we've talked about to this point? Okay. You've heard Dustin say, we're going to do Experiencing God in the fall, and there haven't been a whole lot of details on that, partly because I don't know that we've really just built an ironclad, this is the plan at this point. And so before we build an ironclad plan, I want to hear from you. Kind of what are you thinking? What do you think's the best? I budgeted to put it in the budget, so the money is roughly there. There are some changes that have happened to Experiencing God. I'm going to kind of try to explain some of those. But we are planning on doing Experiencing God in the fall, starting with the second Sunday in September. So if you're clear the holiday, start Experiencing God. And so what is Experiencing God? Does everybody know what Experiencing God is? Okay. Yeah, okay. So we've got 1 or 2 of these. And so let me just kind of recap Experiencing God real quick. Basically, God uses the truths of Experiencing God to awaken believers to a radically God-centered way of life. experiencing God helps one to know God intimately, to recognize His voice, and to understand His will for their life. And so it's 12 weeks of study, 5 nights of homework. It's about 2 pages a night, and it really leads through a very good process of how do I know God, see God at work, move to join God where I see Him at work, and then how does that affect to my church? And there's 3 sessions on kind of viewing that as a church. And so that's a really sketchy outline of it. If you want, the new material is starting to become available. I was able to get a leader's book. I think I got it while I was at the conference. I think it came in. And so I've just cracked the new leader's book. The leader's book, if you've done Experiencing God, the leader's book does not look any different. It's still, all that material looks the same. Maybe some of the illustrations have been touched up, but it looks very similar. It's a little thinner. They may have actually cut a few things out of the book. But until I get an old one and get them side by side, I can't really answer that question. But basically, it has been around since the early 80s. And lots of churches did it. It revitalized a lot of churches and really impacted some people's lives. There's people in this room I know that would stand up and right now would give an amazing testimony about how experiencing God changed their life. And so, and we may have that, especially as we kind of get moving into it. So what's new? As we look at experiencing God, this is what I know is new. It's still the 12 sessions, but I think they've thinned the homework just a little bit, maybe more of just the essential questions. It has new illustrations. They've updated the stories, and they've updated the language. So it doesn't read quite so 1980. It flows a little easier in just the language structure. The big change, though, that I can tell is all of the videos are new. And so the videos now feature not only Henry and Richard. Richard kind of came in the last refresh, but now they've dropped down and picked up Mike. And so, matter of fact, I think Mike and Richard do most of the dialogue in Experiencing God. And so that's new. The delivery system of the videos is new. And so how many of you remember if you missed a session, you had to track down the DVD and the leader wouldn't necessarily want to give it to you because they still needed to prepare and all that? Well, if you buy it, when you get a student book now, the book comes with a unique code to go online and watch the videos from Lifeway. And so that just saves me from having to put them on our server, but Lifeway's finally getting smart. And doing some stuff like that. Slowly but surely, they're getting there. Well, and I know we pick on Lifeway, but Lifeway's bread and butter customer is not us. We're kind of self-sufficient. We have a paid person like me. We've had a series of great paid people like me. But Lifeway still makes the majority of its money not on mega churches, not on large churches. It is, the Pilgrim's Rest Baptist Church outside Stott City, Missouri. They have 35 members. They may do Experiencing God, and they're going to complain that it won't play in their VHS machine. They're not quite that bad, but that's still, Lifeway still does a lot of print material for churches that are in that 65-ish category. That's the other thing in the pandemic, lowered the average church size in America by about 20 people. It used to be about 80 to 100. It's now 65 to 70. And so the instruction, like I said, I've touched on that. It really is geared towards, you can do it as a retreat. You can do it as a church-wide emphasis. You can do it as a personal study session. There's lots and lots of ways to do Experiencing God. And then they're really kind of pushing more of small group sessions with this go around experiencing God. They really talk a lot about pairs, quads, and groups of 8. That's kind of how they're trying to capitalize on the small group. But that's the big new thing that I can tell. I mean, it's been refreshed and updated. And a lot of the art's changed and stuff. But the redoing of the videos and the delivery system, that's the big change, or to me at this point. All right, so you can't read this. Go watch it on the video. I may print it out and do a link. These are all the ways that I think we might do it. Okay, and so I'll kind of go through this one and kind of point as I go, and then we can talk about it. The designed approach. So Karen, I think, asked, what's the designed approach? The designed approach is, this is the way Henry intended for it to be taught. Okay, this is how I envisioned this study. This is the preferred structure. Okay, so if we were teaching it the way intended, the design approach would be an arrival activity of 5 minutes. That's this column here. We would sing or have special music for 5 minutes. Then we would have a unit review for 15 minutes. Then we would have a sharing time of 30 minutes. Then we would spend 15 minutes in prayer. And then we'd have a 30-minute session to watch the video and talk about it. The videos run about 18 minutes. And then we'd have a 5-minute closure time to kind of say goodbye and wrap things up. That's how Experiencing God was designed to be taught. That's the original thought. So we certainly could do that. Okay? There is a way to do Experiencing God in 1 hour. Okay? And Chris Bobo just got this cheesy, sly smile because it only takes 25 weeks. Okay? And so 25 weeks, the way you do that, week 1 and 2, you would arrive and sing. Okay? Week 1, you would do review and sharing. And then the week 2, you would come back and you would do prayer time, the video, and then you have closure on 1 and 2. So basically, you took the 2 hours and you're going to do the talking in the first week, and you're going to watch the video and discuss it in the second week, which means it gets to be 25 weeks. Okay? Chris just went to sleep. Chris Homer, on the other side of the aisle, just went to sleep at 25 weeks. Okay? Now, you can do 1 hour a week for 12 weeks, but what happens is you cut out the singing, you reduce some of these other things, like 10 minutes for prayer, and you make the video optional. Watch it when you can. Okay? So that's one of the ways to do it. There is a 1 hour a week. There is another way to do 1 hour a week for 12 weeks, and that's kind of the new way you can use the video. It's the 5 minutes, no singing, 15-minute review, 30-minute sharing, 10 minutes of prayer, and then you watch the video at home with the code. Okay? So that's a way to get it done in 12 weeks in 1 hour. Then there is... Oh, I just did that one. Then we can do 1 hour a week, and this is kind of like if your preacher wants to preach the video, which is a way to do it. And so basically, you do everything down to the video, and then your pastor preaches the video. And some of you are going, man, that's really crazy. There are a lot of guys that did that in the first go around. They basically watched the video. They synthesized out what they wanted to say, and that's what they did. I'm not ranking any of these at this point as what Larry thinks we should do. It's just I'm telling you. So now there's a creative design approach. It'll take 13 to 14 weeks, and this is kind of like Larry thinking about us. Okay? And so that would be to do a 2-hour schedule before or after worship. So you would come either an hour, you would, based upon our Sunday school hour, you either come an hour early or stay an hour late based upon what worship service you went to. And then you would be able to do the 2 hours. We would make Sunday morning a 3-hour experience. Some of you are nodding. That's really good. but Larry, why did it go to 13 or 14 weeks? Nobody's going to ask me that question?
Larry, why did it go to 13?
Bob, I'm glad you asked it. You guys are slow today. We need to get to that coffee really quick upstairs. Because I've had a conversation with Tracy, and she immediately panicked in the fact that they would not be able to staff that much. So the only way that I can figure out that we would do it is we would all take a week or two in the children's ministry, filling that extra hour. Okay? And so, great. Come back, computer. Come back. But that is a creative approach that I think could work for us. And then the creative design approach would be just to say, we're going to do kind of alternating groups. And so in your group, you would say, how many of you want to do Experiencing God? And then you would pick a time, and then you would do it you could do it on Wednesday night here, Thursday night, that kind of thing. And so those are the approaches that I kind of came up with as I've thought this through and kind of, looked at it. We can do the traditional where we sign up, and if you're interested in Experiencing God, you come and we enlist a teacher, and we have Experiencing God group after Experiencing God group after Experiencing God group. And that will be of some effect. I think what Dustin is intrigued by is if we can all do it together, then our church makes this kind of lurch forward. And then we still, even if we lurch forward, we're still going to have to teach Experiencing God as an ongoing thing, because now the Experiencing God experience has become part of the lore of First Baptist, and we would do new people coming in a disservice if we said, you don't get the inside jokes. It's like if you were to go to the church I came from and we were to talk about, have anybody on Facebook ever seen me comment on somebody's Facebook post, I'm a balcony person? If you weren't there during that sermon series, you kind of go, well, that was nice. What's that mean? But if you were there during because the sermon series went 12 weeks, y'all. We were so tired of hearing about being a balcony person that we were starting to make fun of it. But it is ingrained in the life of that church for a generation. And all I have to do is on certain people's letters or Facebook pages, I am in the balcony, and they know exactly what I'm talking about. They know they're being prayed for, cared for, and I want to know what happens. But it's part of the lore. And so we have to, if we're going to make it part of the lore, we have to replicate that process for others, okay? Tell me what you think. In the next week or two, email me. This isn't a yes or no thing to me. This is, I want to know opinion. So when I sit down with Dustin and I go, I've got, half my Sunday school teachers kind of go, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. We don't know that we need to do Experiencing God again. That's okay. I budgeted for some classes because I've done church-wide things where we try to get everybody to do the same thing. And there always will be one or two classes that go, not for us. But First Baptist is for them. I'm okay with that. But at the same time, if we're going to all move forward, what's the best way for us to do that? That we can all kind of get behind. That's what I'm searching for right now.
The Sunday school hour, right?
Right now, that's what I'm thinking. If we do the design approach, Jerry, we would probably do it on Sunday night, Wednesday night. Yeah, I don't know. Just to come in and do. Well, if we were doing the design approach in the 12 weeks with 2 hours in Sunday school, that'd be the same thing. We're just straight signed your group up and we get everybody a book.
So we'd not be doing anything during the Sunday school hour.
We would just be doing Experiencing God, for that 12 weeks.
So which way are you leaning, I guess?
Which way am I leaning?
I'll
It's
give
not
you
clear
some-
to me which approach you want to take.
Well, I'll give you some quick feedback.
Okay, give me your quick feedback and I'll answer Robert's question.
Don't do it as a Sunday school class. I think the number of people who are going to do it is going to drop dramatically.
Oh, I know that. That's that's a,
So if we really want the church to do it, then doing it as a Sunday, as some way as a Sunday school class is the right thing to do.
yeah. So where am I at, Robert? That's a very fair question. I am trying to take my pastor's desire and what I know about my very strong and very capable leadership group and kind of get those two things together at this point. I don't know that I have an opinion. If I were doing it and I had all the resources in the world, I would probably lean towards this creative approach because I wrote it.
I can't see what you.
Oh, it's the creative approach where we do 2 hours, take a 2-hour block in Sunday morning, and we help out in preschool for an hour. That would probably, or children's ministry, that would probably be the approach I would take. And then we would, for everyone who's working, we would do an alternate Sunday school class. Because we can't just say, well, only adults get to do this. There is a youth version. We would probably do the youth version. But we have a lot of people that work in our preschool or sing in our choirs and stuff. We would still have to have an alternate session for all those people as well. And so that's what I think, if we want to do it church-wide, that's the best way to do it. It will cost us something. We all have to go, yeah, we'll take our turn with the bed babies. And there's a reason that I'm the adult minister, not the preschool minister.
Dustin's not said he's gonna preach.
No, he hasn't. No. But I knowing Dustin, if we're all in this together, he's going to talk about it. It's going to be in the sermon, but he's not going to stand up and read Blackaby's video script. I just don't see Dustin doing that at all. So I'm at this point now where I just want to kind of hear from everybody, and then I'll try to figure out what works best from there for us as a faculty. But I have such confidence and trust in y'all. Hearing your voice is important to me, and that's why I wanted to do it. So now, what's the pace of this? What's going to happen next, Larry? We will have we'll have probably 1 or 2 out of cycle meetings to get ready. Once I kind of know what we think we need to get done, then we'll talk about here's the specific plan. How do we need to tweak it? This is why display technology gets real important. Because if we're going to ask all of our adults to watch the video in Sunday school, I have till the end of the summer to get my remaining 4 rooms digital display ready. We may even have to go in and pull wire to all of our televisions so we say at this time the video comes on and it doesn't do this, because this won't cut it. This cable will be in the trash can as we leave, because we're to the point now where we've got so much stuff that is being delivered content digitally that this just can't happen. I mean, I came in here, I've tested everything, and everything was flawless. And then it does this. I feel your pain when it happens in your Sunday school class. And so that's where I'm at right now, Robert, is your opinion matters to me. Because I watched a leadership movie, The Music Man, and it's a great leadership movie. The Music Man leads the band because he knows when to get in front of the band. I'm just asking which way is the band going, and so I know where to jump in at, and then I'll look good. But your opinion matters at this point to me greatly. And then, midsummer we'll have a meeting and we'll go, this is kind of what we're thinking. And then as we get ready to move in, it'll be here's the materials, here's the preview, all those kinds of things that would be coming next. So that's kind of the flow of it. But that's a great question. Any other questions, comments? You might want to go back and watch this later because it'll look a whole lot better than it looked tonight, because I'll put all the stuff back in.
But the people that have to come in by Zoom every Sunday, how will that affect them?
We would So I've been looking at, because and you'll know what this is. I've been looking at the Alley Pro, some of the Alley Pros for that situation, to where we can feed video in a little bit easier, that kind of thing. And the other nice thing is we could say to those people watching Zoom is, why don't you leave us for 18 minutes and go, watch it on your computer. Because even though we're all here watching together, the book has the code, and so they could go watch it. So, I mean, I've thought through some of the mechanics of that, but you guys, your questions and your feedback always helps me refine what I think. Because I walk around and I watch what you do and how you're doing things, but that doesn't always mean I fully get what's going on. And so, those kind of things are important. Feedback to me is very important. Yeah, Chris?
I don't want to put us off in a ditch, but just to parallel on that question, if we were to go that route, would there be any concerns about licensing issues if we were to rebroadcast it?
No, the best I can tell from reading like I said, I've only had like 4 days of the book. It literally just is hot off the press. As long as we buy them a book, okay? So like the Forts, we'll pick on the Forts because they're not here, they're in South Africa. We may have to like plan ahead to mail them a book, or buy the book and take it apart here and digitize it to them so they have the book and the code.
Digital.
The book right now is not. At least I have not seen it or found it in a digital format. That doesn't mean I can't get it. So, but if we have to, we can mail stuff anywhere in the world, basically. We just have to know what the lead time is.
So like for Homebound, we could just put up a message on Sunday morning like, hey, you have 3 weeks to sign up so we can get you.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
So, and you guys are going to let us know. It's like college kids, do you want to do it or not? Because some of them in September, college students think in blocks of 8 weeks. Their life literally is only 8 weeks long. Because their life totally changes after the semester. It's just a different world. And so, do they want to participate? Do they have time to participate? There will be a lot of those kind of questions that go on. Do I anticipate everybody doing Experiencing God? No. There'll be somebody that's not for me. There'll be some folks that, for lots of different reasons. Let me see if I think we've kind of done your thoughts on that. But if you got questions and answers, let me know. I do want to honor trying to get everybody up to the business meeting tonight. But let me close with a word of prayer, and I'll hang out here for 3 whole minutes. But I'll be here after the business meeting. Let's pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, lots of good questions, lots of good discussion. Lord, help the gremlins in my computer to go away. Lord, help me to recast and repolish this presentation for those that watch online. Thank you for my wife who's produced it and followed through all the glitches of stuff. Lord, thank you for this team of people at First Baptist that invest weekly in the health and life of our church. Lord, I'm so thankful for them, and just continue to bless them. I pray this in your name. Amen. Thank you, folks, for coming. I apologize for the glitchiness. Does anybody want to use cable?